Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Allegheny. We're going back in sponsors, the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I have a lot of different sponsors on my mind, but we thank the people of Ireland Contracting and the Bordas & Bordas hotline, which is 412-575-2600. You can also tweet us if you like, at KDPomp, at Gene Collier. And Gene, we'll start with Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Had an opportunity to speak with Art Rooney II today, and it was revealing in that he said they won't release Antonio Brown, but everything else is on the table, and he I forget the exact quote, that he does not envision Antonio Brown to be with the team in 2019. So your take on this means what? To me, that means he's pretty much gone. And when Art Rooney comes out and says that right now, that means they're already looking beyond this. Is that your take?
That's probably right. It sounds very much like the column I wrote on Sunday in which I said that the Steelers won't do anything right away. They don't have to do anything until March 13th. They'll wait and let this play out to the extent that they might hear from Antonio Brown, what he might have to say for himself. But I put the chances that they could reconcile with him or even want to reconcile with him at about 20%. And I think that's reflected in what Art II said to Jerry Dulac, essentially that, he's not going to be released, which I think implies that, we're going to think about this a little bit. But right now it doesn't look like there's any way forward with Antonio Brown as a Steeler, which I think is about what I said on Sunday. Yeah,
very good article, of course, column by Gene Collier. And reconciliation to me, look, you said 20%. I would say less than that, only because we've been down this road so many times. When you walk away from the team and just don't respond at all to phone calls by your head coach and the man who signs your paychecks, that pretty much sums it all up. So I don't see a reconciliation. The question now will become, who's willing to take him? And there should be no shortage of teams, because unrestricted free agency, there's not much available in terms of top-notch wide receivers. The question is, how much do you get in return? And Gene, again, my take on that would be a first-round pick and a current player, someone who can help me right now, preferably on defense. What do you say?
I think that would be wishful thinking from the Steelers' perspective. I think that, as you said, there would be no shortage of teams that would be interested, but I think there would be a shortage of teams that could give you value in return for AB. I think if the Steelers got a first-rounder or a second-rounder in a one-for-one exchange, that would be the high end, I think.
All right, we have some tweets on this matter. David Surdin, thank you for looking us up on Twitter, David. We appreciate that. He says, I believe that Harrison influenced both Bell and Brown. Have done Harrison. He suggested that Bell should sit out 10 games. He suggested that Brown, now I'm not understanding how this is written. Maybe it's just me reading it. Is this Harrison's way of getting back at the Steelers for cutting him? I don't know what it is. My take on that is I think that Harrison is just looking to be relevant. He's out of the game. He doesn't know what to do. He's lifting weights, and that's about all he's doing, Gene. And so now he's going to Instagram and taking these guys with him. And quite frankly, his advice, I don't agree with any of it on any of those guys.
Yeah, I'm not about to sit here and try and psychoanalyze James Harrison. He strikes me as one of those guys that is learning how to say hello when it's time to say goodbye, and there are plenty of athletes like this. And he's doing nobody, including himself, any good.
Learning to say hello when it's time to say goodbye. I like that. All right, we're going to have more of this outstanding sort of language that you get only here on the Sports Call.
Only here.
By Gene Collier of the Post-Gazette. 412-575-2600, that's the number to call. We also have some news concerning the Penguins as they begin a 5-city road trip tomorrow night in Anaheim, a team which is really struggling. That's all coming up next. Your calls are next, right here live on Pittsburgh CW.
The Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call is brought to you by Ireland Contracting, Pittsburgh's #1 home exterior expert in roofing, siding, windows, and gutters.